each story is a little unique. We just did one for the restaurant. It was an El Tesoro single barrel. I got to pick from 15 different barrels. And we do a barrel release party. We had like 70 guests come and everybody gets a bottle and we make cocktails with it to see paired with food. And then we feature it. The restaurant bought that barrel. We sold that out in 3 weeks.
So hello and welcome to the Tequila Business Channel. My name is Adam Fodor. I'll be your host. And my special guest for today is Greg Bartolotta. He's the owner of several restaurants, the Bar Kitchen and Wine Bar, Ergel Grill, Hemingway's Grill in the New York area. And he's also one of the social media influencer professionals. I don't know how to call you, but I see more and more of you out there in kind of spreading some joy and love and information about tequila. And I also have to tell you guys that I actually had a chat with Greg just a few weeks before, asking him about some interesting things, like how can we promote some of our new sort of educational courses about brands, like official brand trainings. And he was such a good sport, able to help me a lot. And I thought to ask him a little bit more about some of his own projects, that it's something that we can share with you along the way. So thanks a lot, Greg, for joining me today.
Hey, thank you, Adam. Thanks for asking me. It's a great honor.
Thank you. So, Greg, would you care to tell a little bit about yourself, like your background? How did you get started, everything?
I'm born and raised in New York. I still live in the New York area. I've been in the hospitality business for 45 years. I've been an owner for 35 years. So that's hence my name aged agave. I'm a little old, but over the years,
it's matured, right?
That's it, exactly. I'm ready for harvest. But
nice.
I've owned and operated about eight. I have owned and operated over 8 different concepts and restaurants, from nightclubs to wine bars to contemporary American restaurants. I have a sommelier background, so wine is a passion. That's originally probably what got me. I was always doing tequila when during college. I was a bartender, server, and then I opened up a nightclub and a sports bar and so on and so forth, and always had tequila in there. But it wasn't until I got into wine where I really got into flavor profiles and really realizing the difference in one product to the next. So I've been in the hospitality business my whole life. It's nice. Since I was in college. And it's fortunately, unfortunately, it's all I know. So I've been very fortunate.
Fair enough. I mean, look, it's so cool to see that you and I actually share this sort of passion. To be fair, I was also into wine before coming here, though I'm more like an immature guy still. I only have a little bit, maybe more like 10 years or so in this industry. But yeah, I mean, it's great to hear all of that. And so you started with 10 years and more like a bartender, server, as you're saying.
I started as a server in college. Server, and then, bartender, manager. I did everything in front of the house. I didn't cook, but then I had an opportunity to open up my own bar restaurant, and I took a shot. And and I've been fortunate.
Awesome. So tell me about that then. So how did you convert from the server end of the business, if you can say that, to become the owner, right?
That's a good question. So, I was waiting tables through college and bartending, and I took a real job for a couple of years, and I came back to bartending because I just really liked the industry. And I was working at a great place for a couple of years with some great bartenders. And I was like, hey, you know what? I thought this was going to be my life. The rest of my life, I thought I'd be bartending, So an opportunity, a big space down the block from where I was working came available. I mean, I'm talking about, we didn't do anything small. We took like a 7,000 square foot space and, converted it into, it was a failing restaurant bar, and we converted it into a nightclub and a sports bar and, restaurant. I did it with 2 other bartenders. We took a shot, and I never looked back. So it's been nice. And from there, I opened up more restaurants. From there, I had different partnerships and opportunities. Been very blessed.
Wow, amazing. So what you're saying is that you had a business that wasn't functioning literally, and you guys just said, okay, well, we can probably do it better, and you proved it right?
I'd like to think so. Yes, we were, like I said, we were bartending down. It was another bartender friend of mine. We were bartending together, and he was a little older than me. And I said, hey, this bar down the block is for sale, and I think we should go look at it. And we both looked at it and we negotiated and we went in,
Mhm.
and we put everything I owned in the place. Trust me, I went on
Wow.
all my
Okay.
credit card debt and the whole bit, but thank God it worked out.
And how did it work out? If you don't mind me asking that. So what's life like? Like, so what's kind of different between your old life and your, well, I wouldn't say new, but new old life.
As far as what being
Yeah,
an
exactly. It is
employee versus
before
an
being an
employer,
owner
well,
versus
yeah, a lot
having.
more responsibility, that's for sure. I
Uh,
used to tell people I'm not the owner, I'm the OE. I'm paying all the
okay.
bills. So,
Okay.
you didn't get as much time to spend with your guests as much as you like. When I was behind the
Mhm.
bar, I would have,
Mhm.
10, 15, 20, 30 people in front of me, and you could go back and forth and spend all night with them. As
Mhm.
an owner, I had much more responsibilities, from working the front door to expediting in the kitchen to, you know, just making sure the music's right, the lighting's right, touching tables, then talking to guests. So I had to learn how
Mhm.
to pull myself away from people when I was talking to them, because you
Interesting.
can't spend all night in one spot when you're a restaurant owner. You got to keep moving.
I see what you mean. It's kind of like you have the same things as you described to me that you had, because you're literally doing the same thing. You're doing a lot of customer facing kind of interaction, right? But you just have a ton more responsibility. So basically, you're just working a lot more and just, well, being your own boss. I guess that actually is a
Yeah, and
good.
my own boss, but you had 35, 40 employees working for you,
Uh,
and you just got
wow.
to make sure everybody was doing their job.
Fair
So
enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I
um,
understand that.
yeah,
Uh huh.
but it was
Good.
challenging,
Good.
but I've been very blessed. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for telling me that story. I think it's really, really cool to know. And if anyone out there, wants to, get a hang of it, like, it's open for everyone. I mean, it's so great to hear like a success story like yours. I mean, I for one, I didn't even thought it was possible to kind of make that big change, but I guess it's kind of true. Like, there's always newcomers, like older businesses that
100%.
may be struggling, and then you can just figure out your way. I love that. And entrepreneurs are really like made, as they say, not born,
Mm.
right? Like you
I've
just
got I've had an opportunity to work with some great
yeah,
people, and they were my
awesome.
mentors, or
Mm,
I've had great people work for me also that have been with me for many, many years. And I'm very fortunate, because that's what makes the business. You can't do it yourself. You can't be a one-man
mm,
show. It's all about, I think it's a team. It's a team effort.
team.
So it's, you're only as good as they like to say, as your weakest link. So, it can come down to a busboy that can make or break your night. You can ruin a table's experience, or, a salad person on the line, or your hostess
Mm.
isn't greeting people the right way. And, that's your bartender's not paying attention. There's a lot of little nuances that can be very challenging.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think we've all been to those restaurants that weren't managed properly by, by the owners, and then you will end up having that experience. And of course, it does help you that you really are involved. So I'm glad that you just again share that as well. That this is kind of like the way that the business should work. So if you're struggling as a restaurant owner, you probably just want to get more hands on and just fix things, right?
Yeah, and basically, honestly, you're right that you have to be there,
Mm.
and also it's all about training. If you
Mm.
train them properly, then you can break away, and hopefully you have senior management, and you can afford to put them in place. When I first started,
Mhm.
we had no managers. We were the managers, and we were putting
Mhm.
70, 80 hours in a week, and eventually,
Wow.
then we'd be down to doing 45 or 50, but we were still there.
Wow.
But we hired people to, I didn't have to stay there till 5 o'clock in the morning anymore. So, to
Wow.
close the
Yeah.
place.
Wow, that's crazy. But well, yeah, I mean, it's just part of life when you have that. Thanks for sharing all of that. Now, if I may just change the topic a little bit,
Please.
I'd like to ask about. I know that you're a huge fan of tequilas, right? Like you said, you started more like from wine, and you probably still are. And this is again something I share with you. I love a good beer. Love a good wine as well. And just how did this transition happen for you? When did you fall
That's a
in love
great
with
question.
tequila?
Again, listen, I've seen the tequila industry change from, back in, like, everybody has those Jose Cuervo experiences, and when Patron first came onto the market, and
Mhm.
some other brands, when, Herradura was really good. I've seen,
Mhm.
Chinaco, El Tesoro, when they first came into the market. People didn't know these brands back then. All they knew was Jose Cuervo, or some other brands. I don't, which, listen, there's a place for every brand out there. So I guess I would say probably about 15 years ago, I probably got more in depth. I was drinking better tequilas. A light bulb went off. I mean, there's a brand out there everybody knows. It's very popular now called Fortaleza. When I had my first sip of Fortaleza, I was like, wow, this is different. This is really
Nice.
different. And,
Interesting.
my palate was probably ready for it. And I just thought this is incredible juice.
And how did you transition from that? So like, okay, you as a consumer, you discovered the world of Fortaleza, and then you started to, I would assume, again, I have no idea, but you started to also serve these tequilas in your bars and also restaurants as well, right?
100%. Yeah.
100%,
I mean, we used to carry the big brands. You'd have the Don Julios and the Casamigos when they came into the market. Patron was always big, but then, as I gradually liked better tequilas, I would bring them to my staff and they would taste them, and they would have a palate for that, and I'd have guests that would like it, and eventually it just kind of snowballed from there. It's what we like. It's you have to cater to your guests. I just can't, listen, we have over 60 agave spirits at the restaurant between mezcal and tequila, and we do carry 2, I would like to say, additive tequilas. But I would say the other 50 something are all additive free tequilas, and there's a big difference. And when I have my guests taste it, and there's always something out there like, hey, you like this? Do me a favor, taste this. And, and a light bulb goes off, and they go, hey, I really enjoyed that. What was that? And then they come back and they reorder it.
Okay, see. And when you say additive free, it's kind of like your experience, obviously, right? Like you can, as a sommelier, you can just kind of, you taste every tequila, and that's kind of basically how you pick the right ones, right? So
correct. It's a flavor profile. I mean, I'm not saying I'm everybody's cup of tea, so to speak, that you're gonna agree with me that it's like wine, like we talk about wine. I can give you a $10 bottle of wine and you're gonna think it's the best, and I can give you a $300 bottle of wine that we all know that's highly rated, and you're gonna be like, hey, that's not my flavor profile. So I like to tell people, like, if you like the $10 bottle, you can have 30 of them then, instead of the $300 bottle. So it's all about your taste, how you develop your palate. But I think I don't know if this is where you want to go with the conversation, but I am a big advocate. I'm a big advocate of additive free tequilas.
Okay.
So, and I like agave forwardness. I want to taste the cooked agave, and I want to taste the tequila notes.
Yeah, I mean, look, in that sense, we do share the same passion. It's just that in my vocabulary, it's the traditional or authentic or real tequila, right?
Let's go with that one. I like that. So the traditional and the authentic production.
Because I don't really think that you're gonna, I don't know, end up selling Casaloy, for example, or I don't know, Cristalinos and all that, kind of gimmicky stuff.
Fortunately, we don't carry any Cristalinos at the restaurant. So that's just
exactly. That's what I thought, right? Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like usually when people, say that they like this sort of additive free, kind of category, or I don't know. I mean, they talk about it as if it was like a category. They usually being like, traditional tequilas. And to be fair, as we teach tequilas, and I'm just gonna just for the conversation between you and I, we're gonna, so how we describe it is more like the Mexican producers, right? So they say that their tequila is traditional, and of course, if it's additive free, it's nice, because like traditional tequila has to be additive free by default, because in 1937 when Tapatio started, there weren't any of these issues that you see now. To be fair, I don't even see it as an issue, because if let's say there's a consumer, and it from the wine world as well, right? I mean, most wines are literally crap. Like 95% of the wines are just base wine or table wine, but still you need those wines so you get the consumer to kind of hook up into, and there is always like 15% that's gonna just start buying something better. And of course, like people like you are a huge help, and eventually when you only serve like 2 of the and what we call commercial tequilas, or the producers like to call the smooth tequilas, because obviously they've been softened up for for the international palate. That's how they call it. And when you serve those tequilas, and then you have a list of 60 or something, you said like a 60 tequilas that you have in your restaurants, and only 2 of them are commercial. I think that's a great kind of trend to kind of show the consumers that if you want to drink something really exceptional or great, like you have this huge list, and you can even play with it, right? I think that kind of evokes that. I mean, if I was one of your clients in your restaurant, I would be like, oh, what are these for? Like, I've never heard of, like 90% of them. And then no,
That's
it's
the
probably
biggest,
going to spark some
that's
interest,
the
right?
biggest challenge is,
Yeah.
they don't know the brands, they don't recognize the bottles, but,
Yeah.
familiarity coming into the restaurants on a regular basis. They see it, maybe now I see more and more off premise, liquor stores and things like that carrying better tequilas. So now they see them. We do a lot of tequila dinners, and believe it or not, I have 4 or 5 liquor store owners that come to these dinners on purpose, so to interact with these consumers, and then they'll put these bottles in their liquor stores, and so it's definitely an upward trend. We know it's past bourbon now, and vodka, tequila is on fire. And listen, I like to say, even with wine, we're a generation of Coca-Cola drinkers. So we say we want to drink dry, but we like sweet. So, and that's what the consumer likes. They say they want a dry wine, and they end up going, "Oh, I like this wine," and we know it's sweet and fruity. Or with tequila, it's the same thing. "Oh, I like this tequila. It's sweet. It's smooth." I don't know if tequila should actually be smooth. I like it to be balanced. I don't want it to be
Correct.
overpowered, the alcohol to overpower, or any other one element of the flavor profile to overpower my palate. But balanced is more important. That you have the finish is long and it's enjoyable. So that's the way I like to gauge my tequilas.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, I only would add like the natural balance, in a sense where it's the actual aromas evaporating from the booze that will balance the alcohol, not
Exactly.
like the whatever kind of substances, like glycerin, or kind of substances that will
100%.
make the gravity higher.
Listen, I've had tequilas that are not balanced, that don't have any additives, but the barrel takes over the flavor profile, and all I'm getting is wood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not a good, that's not, to me, a pleasing tequila. So when the acidity and the tannins, and the cooked agave itself, or the heat, or the alcohol all fall in line, that to me is a balanced tequila. Not where, like, oh my God, that was hot, and you finish with a hot finish. Then it's not a balanced tequila, in my opinion.
It's not.
Yeah.
And not even those tequilas that would just, like 15 minutes finish, right? Because there are certain components that you cannot wash from your mouth easily, only just by consuming, like even more ethanol or something like that, in its pure form. So I understand that. And just, like as I was saying, I so much appreciate, what you're doing. And of course, this is something that we're trying to do as well. And I wanted to ask you regarding that as well. Like, you do say that you have lots of these indie brands, in your bar, and people buy them, I would assume. Or well, how much percentage of your spirits sales is tequila? And if you just can tell me some more or less like percentages, right? Like, and even within your 60 different, kind of tequilas, like how much would that go to, like the two commercial ones, and the rest, and how much of them is going to cocktail?
So tequila represents probably about 20% of our sales, and that includes, beer and wine, and bourbon is a hot market right now too, and vodka, gin is upcoming. But tequila, with all the brands that we carry, most of them are sold through cocktails, through margaritas, palomas. We do some cocktail specials with tequila and mezcal. That's where it's mostly sold through. I just saw a stat, and I want to say it was 5%, but I'm going to go with 10. 10% of the public drinks tequila neat. So I'm a neat drinker. I'm not I don't occasionally I don't mind tequila in a cocktail, but I prefer my tequila neat, straight, no ice. I really want to taste it, and so I'm in the minority. But I would say that, listen, we have the proper glassware at the restaurant for sipping tequila, and the proper glassware for making some great cocktails. It's the brands, we're a little bit unique. Tequila Ocho is actually our house tequila at the one restaurant, and across the street, the other restaurant is El Tecaleno is our house, and then the other, we just took Volcan in as our other well. So we have a premium well. We do that across the board with all our spirits. But when somebody comes into the restaurant and sees that you're pouring Tequila Ocho, whether they never had it or not, they're like, "Wow, that's pretty good tequila." So that's a great spot to start with. And I would say our 5 best sellers, let's take the celebrity tequilas out of the mix, is obviously Tequila Ocho, Fortaleza, El Tesoro, Don Fulano and Arte Nam is, believe it or
Mm-hmm.
not, we do cases, believe it or not, of Arte Nam 1414.
Mm-hmm.
People love it. We sell the 1146 and, the 1579 and the 1123, but the 1414 seems to be a big hit at the bar. And it only takes one or two guests who like like a tequila to make the brand happen. So,
Ah, nice.
you know.
And like when you say like, the 1414, is it like the neat drinkers or even like, for cocktails, they just ask a certain tequila,
Yeah, I would
right?
think
Or
it's
how does
mostly
it
neat. I would
go?
think that's
Okay.
mostly neat. You'll sell your
Okay.
El Tesoro and your Fortaleza and your Ocho and Don Fulano in a cocktail, but I find most of my the Arte Nam stuff is definitely sip neat.
And just for the sake of curiosity, because you now piqued my curiosity, what is the two brand that you actually have for
Okay,
as for your
so
clients kind of request, right?
okay. Well, they don't. I don't know if they request it, but you need to have Casamigos.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
fair enough.
I don't carry. I only carry the Blanco and the Repo. I don't carry the Añejo,
Okay,
so that
okay.
gives everybody an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
move into a better añejo, we like to say. And then
Fair enough.
Don Julio does, being in business. Listen, they do a lot of programming with
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. But our Don Julio sales are way off. For the
Oh,
last
okay.
3 or 4 years, we don't carry
Interesting.
1942, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
carry Ase Azul anymore, and any of the pretty
Mm-hmm.
tall bottles.
Mm-hmm.
I find on the sweeter side, if somebody wants something, I recommend Don Fulano, or I recommend
Mm-hmm.
Norte Nam or something like that. And they seem to like that, and they seem
Mm-hmm.
to make that transition. So I see my sales where I'm not ordering cases of Casamigos anymore, or
Mm-hmm.
cases of Don Julio anymore. Now, there's a
Mm-hmm.
place for that in the market.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call them almost like gateway tequilas.
Ah, okay.
If I can get you to start drinking that and you like it, your palate will develop, and you'll end up moving over to, oh, is Ocho your well, or what is that, Fortaleza? I've heard about
Mm-hmm.
that. Let me try it. So there's a place for it. I know a lot of places
Of
are
course.
traditionally only tequilas, and they're not going to carry. You know what? I like to give my guests some options. You just can't force feed everybody your philosophy. So
And thanks for mentioning that, because I think it's really important that people notice, because I 100% agree with you. I mean, I understand it's kind of like, that there are a place for everyone, and I appreciate our activists as well. Like, you should not even drink and you should just drink what I'm saying. It's kind of like, even vegans kind of, have that sometimes. And, there's some people who are like, well, okay, I'm going to just, convert it or whatever. But I agree with you. I mean, I've been doing lots of tequila tastings. Like, I don't know, like, some over 700 over the past 8 years. And what I saw as well is that sometimes it's just showing people, right, like, okay, this is the cost to produce this, like, because I usually bring like a Campo Azul, which you can buy it here for like $10, and they make I mean, that's like the role model for Casamigos, for Teremana, for many tequilas. And when I just showed that, well, look, like, this is a very cheap bottle, they understand. Okay, so it's not like it's bad, because I mean, you can say it's bad, but if they like it, I mean, it's there. And to be fair with you, I don't dislike it. I mean, I understand, like, it's nice. You can just drink it. If it's even like it's a mixed reposado, right? It's
I
it's
think
not
if
even
you,
100% agave. It's
yeah,
it's it's got like tons of oak extract, right?
okay.
But I let the consumers just like, just to learn, because if I tell them like, oh, that's not the right choice, they're gonna be like, well, okay, so what's the right choice? And I show them lots of random brands they never ever heard of. They're gonna be like, oh, this guy's crazy. Like, I've
Yeah.
never seen these on the television. So I show them, hey, these are the tequilas that you can buy. This is the role model. This is how it costs, like, and I don't need to explain anything else. And if any of you didn't like any of these guys, don't worry. Like, it's not a problem. Feel free to drink the other one. But at least you tried, and now you know what you're
Yeah,
buying, right?
I don't mind those in a cocktail either. I mean, you know what? Listen, I'd rather taste the agave again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also a high proof guy, so if I'm going to make a cocktail, I'm going to want a high proof or still strength in
Mm-hmm.
there, which the other guys don't offer. But the
Mm-hmm.
brands that I see, Fortaleza obviously is getting harder and harder to find, but
Oh yeah.
Ocho and El Tesoro and Don Fulano, and those are brands that you can find almost anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
they're
Okay.
nationally distributed, so it's easy for me to recommend these brands to people, and there's brand recognition after that. And then they,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what's that topper? Oh, that's a Pina. Oh, okay. What's that topper? Oh, that's a Tahona wheel on the El Tesoro bottle. And it's little
Mm-hmm.
educational stuff like that. That I like. That people get a little. I call it product wisdom, versus product knowledge. They don't really have to know what bricks the agaves were picked or at what year they were, or but they want to know a little story about the bottle. And I think the bottle should tell a story. So I think that's what makes tequila interesting also, because there's so many different bottles.
Yeah, and having said that, I agree. There's so many, and of course, every month there's just, I don't know, 20 new brands around, and obviously it's hard to even just keep on track of what's going on. But like for you, for example, like as a bar owner, obviously every now and then you're gonna add the new tequila to your selection. And what does it take for a new brand to even pique your interest, apart from having a compelling story, as you were saying, and maybe a good taste?
Yeah, for me, it might be different than other restaurant owners. Is that, I know so many people in the industry, and I know, the nom numbers. And so, if I know it's coming out of a great nom, there's, in my opinion, there's, 30 or 40 good nom numbers out there. And I go, okay, that's a good producer. That's a first start. Obviously, taking words from you, the traditional, authentic production is, something that's going to spike my interest. And then obviously, there's the app, the Tequila Matchmaker app, so I will look. I am on the panel for the scoring, so I always look to see how the panel scored it, and if it's something that's interesting, the price point's right, then I'm happy to bring it in, and give it a shot. So,
yeah, it's good. Okay, and then you bring a little bit in, and obviously if it's doing well, you're just gonna keep buying. And if it doesn't do well, it's probably just still gonna be a nice kind of part of the selection, right? Or how do you think about it, right?
I end up drinking it.
Oh, you end up drinking it. Okay, very good.
A couple
Yeah,
of my good guests, I'll share it with them, and we'll open it up and we'll drink it. But yeah, like I said, we do a lot of tequila dinners and stuff like that too. So that's how we have some good brands that come in, and people get introduced to these brands, and then they'll come back into the restaurant. So again, if a new brand has a full extension where they're doing a Blanco, a Repo, an Añejo, or an Extra Añejo, that we can do a dinner or something, or a tasting. And we get 40 to 70 people show up for these dinners. They sell out in 5 minutes, and they come back, and then they'll order them from the either from us at the bar or go to the local liquor store.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and it creates some buzz as well, right, about your restaurant.
It's the same 40, 50 people that come to these dinners every time we do them, and it's
okay, that's so cool. That's so cool. Wow. And it's kind of sorry?
No, it's just a little tequila culture that we have. That I do a lot of wine dinners too, and believe it or not, the wine dinners are harder to sell out than the tequila dinners. The tequila dinners are so hot right now, and we're fortunate enough, because I am in the industry, that we get some of the brand owners or the actual to come to the restaurant, and that's always a huge draw. People want to but we had Sergio Blanco come, and we did a 14 dinner, and to have Sergio there and his family, and that's a big draw. You get somebody in there. We've had Jesse Estes from Ocho come and do a dinner. Those are people that are you're going to sell those out. So
yeah, for sure, of course, yeah. And I would imagine that because your audience is such a core audience in the sense that they always come back, it's safe to assume that they really want to kind of absorb the knowledge as well. So they really are motivated by all of these new events. And as we're saying, like when someone new is coming, and this is something that, and just a quick question or an interesting curiosity of mine, if you will, is that it's kind of hard to pull the same thing with wine, right? You don't get to be able to invite them, especially you would be hard struck inviting like French wine producers, I would assume, right?
That would be tough. But we've had some high-end winemakers come to the restaurant and do some wine dinners with us too, and that's a big draw. But as you know, in wine, it can get expensive when you get some, and you want to pour 5 different wines, and and have the winemaker there, and it's a little bit more intense. I can do for what I would do a wine dinner for, say, for 150, 175, or $200 a head. I can do a tequila tasting from $65 to $100 and make it affordable for everybody. And,
wow,
so
that's a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's one reason why it sells out so quickly too, just for the experience. People are used to spending $65 to $100 a person per dinner. When you get into that $200 range, it gets to be a little expensive for everybody.
Yeah, I understand. And of course, you've got to open the wine and sell it, right? So it's I would suggest or suppose, sorry, that it would make the difference, because for tequila, whatever is open, you can just serve, and it's just easier to store and manage, right?
You're
Logistically speaking
100%
as
right.
well.
That's the other reason, believe it or not, why I got into tequila. I have about 600 bottles of wine. I have a wine cellar in my house, and you just can't pop a bottle open and go back and revisit it, 3-4 weeks from now. You need to
Yeah.
drink it in the next 2-3 days. Where
Yeah.
tequila, you know what? I have about 600 bottles of tequila in my house, and we can open a bottle, and we're still going to finish it, but I can drink that over 2 months, and I can share it with people, and it's just that's another reason why I got into tequila. I was like, okay, I can spend $100 on a bottle of tequila, and I can keep this bottle for a couple of months, weeks, whatever it is, if properly stored. I buy this bottle of wine for $100, and I open it. I got to drink it right now. So those are the different challenges, also.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Like, that was a good part of why I got into this as well, because I also wanted to start more like a wine tasting kind of, business, because there's just more people who are generally interested in wine, even wine education in general, obviously. But when you think about like all the things that you're saying, like, it's even more like portable. You can just just close it up and just go anywhere. I mean, I was doing a lots of locations even, so I didn't even have a bar. I don't have a bar, for example. So it's also portable. It's gonna just keep there forever. I mean, I live in one of the hottest areas of Mexico, and here where we keep the tequila, the temperature is super hot, and it doesn't affect it. Like, I can just keep the tequila there for years in the heat, literally, and nothing happens. So it's an amazing drink for that.
Yeah, you can definitely cook a bottle. Definitely cook a bottle of wine. Hopefully, you're not cooking.
Exactly. Yeah. No. It's actually, well, I mean, I'm not saying it may change it a little bit, but my palate is not that good, right, to pick it up. So.
I mean, at the wine bar, I've had 2 wine bars. They're called Barrique, which is a French barrel, and but I have Cuvée systems that where we, with their preserving the wine. So I can open a bottle of wine up, and I can put it in the preservation system, and it'll sit there, it'll go for 3 weeks, and it'll be fine. But not everybody has it at their house. So these units cost me $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for the unit. So that's
wow.
a big there too, But thank God we don't have that for tequila,
So what you're saying, by the way, now you're selling more tequila than wine, literally, right?
At the Argyle, which is a bar and tavern. Yeah, that's where we that's across the restaurants across the street from each other. The wine bars, we have about 25 or 30 tequilas at the wine bar, with the brands that I just mentioned to you, the El Tesoros and the Don Fulano. With the more unique tequilas that you're not going to find everywhere, I'll have over at the Argyle, at the tavern, so people can come and try them.
Thanks for mentioning. Okay, so a different kind of concepts, and even for the drinks, not just obviously for the menu for the different restaurants. Okay, nice. Okay, and this leads to my next question, which I'm actually really curious about to learn about, because I saw that you're posting it on, like, you even visited some distilleries, about the story that you bought a few single barrels, or maybe it was just one, to be fair. I couldn't count more several times, but would you mind sharing with us the story, like how did you get your hands on it?
Yeah, each story is a little unique. We just did one for the restaurant. It was an El Tesoro single barrel, and I was down there. I got to pick from 15 different barrels, and you taste them, and and then they send them up there, and we do a barrel release party. So we had like 70 guests come, and everybody gets a bottle, and we make cocktails with it, and they get to see it paired with food, and then we feature it at the restaurant for certain cocktails, and also as a sipping tequila. So the restaurant bought that barrel, and that's an easy do. But you can only do those once a year. You can't just be backed up with a lot of tequila. That particular single barrel, the El Tesoro, was slightly high proofed, which I liked. It was a little spicier than normal El Tesoro, not as sweet, and I thought it had some good depth. So people seem to agree. We sold that out in 3 weeks, which was a pretty good run. 240 bottles come in that barrel.
Yeah, nice.
The one that's being released this week, coming up, actually perfect timing to talk to you, is a really unique story. This is El Gran Legado. So 2 years ago, believe it or not, this past week, I was down in Puerto Vallarta vacationing, and I was wearing one of my tequila T-shirts, and the timeshare guy said, "Oh, you like tequila?" I said a little bit, and he said he showed me a couple of mass-produced brands, and I was like, they're not that good. And I said, I'm on social media. I said, you might want to take a look at my page, whatever. So the next day he calls me up and says, "Listen, a friend of mine just is launching a brand. It's and he knows you from Instagram, and he wants you to taste his tequila." So I said, "All right, give him a call." I said, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. If I don't like the tequila, I'm going to be upfront with you and tell you I don't like it." So this gentleman, Steve Vera, reaches out to me, and I meet him in the lobby of the my timeshare, and we sit down, and of course, I find out that he's being produced at Cascuine at 1123s, which is a great start already, and Michoacan agaves, and it was just we ended up doing more than a half a bottle kill in the and I said, "Hey, this is pretty good tequila." So Steve is a generous and he's a brother now, a loving man, and he said, "Greg, listen, you were the first one ever to taste my tequila, and I want to do a single barrel with you." So he actually flew me down there. He had 20 barrels that he just brought in, 10 bourbon, 10 cognac. He let me this is better than like a barrel pick. This is my single barrel. He let me pick the barrel. So I picked a Martel Cognac VSOP barrel. His agaves just came in at his still strength came off the still at 109. So we filled that, and I went down there 3 times to taste the barrel to see if it was done at 4 months. I think we went down at like 4 months, 6 or 7 months, and then finally decided at 8 months to take it. And
Okay.
so it's an 8-month reposado. It's going to be going through Sip Tequila if it hasn't sold out already. We did a pre-sell, and and I want to say I think it's sold out, but we're not sure. There might be a few bottles left when they open it up. But every day I get people asking me how do I get this single barrel. So I put them in touch with SIP, and I told them, "Listen, we have a pre-sale right now. So this is only going to be, again, about 220 bottles that are going to be available." Came out at 106 proof. Last time I checked, 190 was sold, and that was about a week ago already. And I've already had many people contact me since then. So I'm not sure if there's much left, but that's how we did that.
And you probably kept a few, right? So
yeah, well, that's why there's only 220. I got the balance of the barrel. So
right.
And then I'm doing a third single barrel, believe it or not. I'm very fortunate. I don't know how many years.
Wow.
Lou Agave, Long Island Lou. So Lou and I once in a while do reviews. Actually, Lou does reviews. Once in a while, I'll be there and we review one of my bottles that I bring. So we were down in September for the Additive Free Week, and I had a relationship with the Cascanas people, and I said, if you ever have a single barrel, and they said, "Listen, I have a single barrel for you." So we went down there. I brought Lou with me. We teamed up. We're doing a number 9, which is 100 proof in Yeho. It's going to be about 17, 18 months. They're just bottling it this month. So that is going to be released in July, and that's going through also another online called lovescotch.com. Probably see that in July. So that's how you get into these things.
Nice.
I haven't personally had to lay any money out. Well, the restaurant did for the first barrel.
Okay.
But this morning I just had somebody contact me because there's like a Long Island, that's where I am, Tequila Society. And he said, "Greg, we need to do a Long Island Tequila Society single barrel." He mentioned a distillery and a producer that I have a relationship with. I told him I'd contact him and see what we can do. And he said, "I will front the barrel." I said, "Well, the barrel you want to do is probably going to cost you about $25,000. He goes, "Okay." And he's willing to put that money up, and then we'll sell it throughout the group that we have. There's probably 70 or 100 of us that'll want a bottle too.
Nice. Thanks for sharing this experience. It's so great to hear from your passion. I mean, you seem to be really passionate about this project, which is of course, it's awesome. I just wanted to also kind of ask, so about the very first, so for the El Tesoro, first one is something that you bought for your restaurant, right? So because for all the rest seems to be more like projects that were, kind of some for you, but you kind of shared it through the SIP tequila.
Yeah, online retailers, yes.
And so the one that you bought for your restaurant, then of course, if you're not going to sell it, you're going to drink it. We already know that. But how did that go? Like, I assume some of your guests that you have these events for, they bought a few, or how?
Right.
How
yeah, we did.
Work, right?
I think I mentioned earlier we did a bottle release party at the restaurant.
Okay.
So I had 70 people come. Everybody, the price of their ticket, they got them a bottle to take home with them, and also then we made 2 different cocktails. So depletions through that, and then We also did a side by side, my single barrel, or the restaurant single barrel with next to regular El Tesoro, so they could see the difference. So, and then we featured it for National Margarita Day. We made a cocktail with it. Like I said, it sold out in like 3 weeks. So I actually had people calling me all
Nice.
over the country, believe it or not, asking me if they can get they can get a bottle of it or two. And yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Greg, because I always kind of thought that, I mean, apart from the easy path, it's that obviously you can put it in a cocktail and then you can always sell stuff. But I feel that you did have an event, you can, you have a few people already kind of buying that, and then you serve some in your bar or restaurants. And of course, it will actually make it even more, I'd say, valuable if you just kind of share a few with the restaurants, because then there's going to be even less bottles for that one batch, and then people are like, I want that, I want one of that, I don't know, 100 or something.
I think anybody who wants to start a single barrel program, like kind of like the guy that contacted me today, he's like, I'll buy the barrel, let's host it at your place. I'll get 60, 70 people down there that are going to want to buy a bottle or two, and that's how you get rid of the barrel. But it's a community. I mean, it's I try to tell every consumer, you're the best judge of quality and flavor.
Exactly.
What you like. I can't tell you that you should like this tequila because it's the most traditional, authentic. You may not like the flavor profile, and you may like the celebrity tequila. Drink what you like. I have no issue with that. I'm in a million little chat rooms on Facebook and Instagram, and they beat up some newbies all the time. And
I know, right?
We need to be there to educate and say, listen, enjoy the journey. That's what I try. Whenever I give hey, listen, maybe you want to try this instead of that, but listen, enjoy your journey. Because nobody just started drinking Blanco and going, it's unbelievable. It's kind of like wine. Usually you start drinking the lighter wines, the Pinot Grigios, Sauv Blanc, Chardonnays, and you move your way up to the Petit Syrahs or the Cabs. Tequila, I think, is the opposite. You start drinking the sweeter stuff. You drink the añejos, the extra añejos, and you work your way down to Blanco. Nobody just grabs a Blanco and goes, oh, this is my flavor profile. I love this. Even though that's all I drink is Blancos, but it took me a while to get there. I was
Fair enough.
Añejo drinker for a long time.
Or it's the same with music, by the way. I always love to do that as well. I mean, you can just listen to this whatever disco music or like this boom boom boom, and then there's classical music, jazz, or even rock music, and like whatever your preference is. Like,
and one's not better than the
you
other.
can tell. Exactly. Like you won't be able to convince others like, hey, that's my beat. You're just going to make, kind of them more alienated. And, but then, I mean, it's an interesting thing, right, that we're talking about, because in a sense, what we're talking about is if you push it too much, then it can actually backfire. People are like, you know what, like I don't even want your opinion. And then they're gone. And that's actually what I'm more afraid of, that people are going to choose rum. They're going to choose whiskey, they're going to choose vodka, which, by the way, they all have additives. I mean, what I mean? Like, they just don't know that it's a problem. Whereas here, everyone's talking about it. And because of that, they're like, oh, this is a huge problem. So that's why tequila is like not as good. Like, dude, like there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's not worse than the vodka that you're drinking, probably. I mean, vodka, especially in the States, right? You probably know as a sommelier that in the States, you don't even have to have any plant material to produce vodka. What do you do? And to me, it's kind of really even ridiculous when I see like handmade vodka. I'm like, handmade? It's almost like saying, I don't know, whatever big car brand is being made by, I don't know, like the IKEA. There is Olaf, who is just, nailing the hammer.
It's like going to a restaurant, they say, our hand cut steaks. Well, I hope so. I hope you cut them by hand. I don't know how else you cut them by, or,
Exactly. Or hand cut agaves and stuff like that. All right, Al, thanks for discussing this. I do have maybe one or two questions, and it's regarding like the education, if I may. So first of all, I ask, how would you train your staff? Because you have tons of different tequilas. You have a huge audience that is interested in actually learning about them, and because you do these events, many of them are really sharp, I would assume, in the topic of tequila. So how do you train your stuff?
Training is ongoing and continuous. Besides myself, with my own education of training in wine and spirits, I'll do a lot of staff training myself, but I'll bring in brand reps and the people from the brand themselves. We do a lot of tastings. That's the best way for the staff. You got to put the bottle in their hand. They have to feel it. touch it, taste it, know what they're talking about. Whether it's a wine, whether it's a tequila, whether it's a dessert that I'm selling or a special that night, we want to make sure that the staff knows exactly what they're touching, what's in the ingredients are in it, and what they're presenting to the table. So we have an expression, and we didn't create this. People have heard, knowledge is power. So the more you know, the more powerful, the better tools that you have. So and then besides doing in-house tastings and trainings, there's so much right now in social media. There's like I said, there's tequila fests, there's clubs, there's it's just it's a lot of material, and obviously thank God we have the internet. Not everything is accurate, but at least we can go and look things up. And it's a small community too. A lot of people call me and ask me a lot of questions. And where do you get this? How do you get that? What do you do with this? And again, I'll do the same thing, and it's an exchange of ideas, and I'll bring it back to the restaurant, and I'll say, or I go out a lot, and I go, hey, listen, I was just at this place, and they were doing this presentation. This is unbelievable. We need to do this presentation. So that's how we do it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Just wanted to ask, you even said knowledge is power, so I would assume that you even have a, how do you say, you would rate it high. So this is a question I like to ask as well, sort of on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think is important, like consumer education about tequila?
Consumer education or my staff?
Consumer education, yeah.
I think it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I walk into big liquor stores, especially when I'm out of town, to go see what they have. I'll mention a brand, Total Wine, and I've been in the aisle, and I see some people grab the biggest bottle of tequila at the cheapest price because they're going to a party. And I see, unfortunately, certain people in the store that aren't knowledgeable. I overheard 2 salespeople saying, I describe tequila as spicy vodka. I almost cringed, or I see them trying to push a brand that I know they make the best margins on. And it's not always, and I always tell people, when you go to Total Wine, look on the bottom shelf, not on the top shelf. The bottom shelf's got the G4 and got the Fortaleza down there. So consumers need to know what they're buying, whether it's gin, scotch, bourbon, it's wine, you want to know. I think knowledge is power. You want to know what you're buying. You want to know how it was made, how it was, you say, handcrafted or traditional or authentic. I mean, I don't know how many people know the difference between a Tahona or a roller mill or a screw mill.
Oh yeah.
Or an autoclave versus diffuser versus it's or a horno. It's just wood vats versus stainless. Listen, we can get really technical, but I think the story behind the brand is always the best when people there's a story behind it. Do I have to know that George Clooney owned Casamigos for 4 years and sold it for $1 billion and doesn't own an agave plant? You know what? That's still product wisdom.
It is.
But, or like you said, Tapatios goes back to the 1930s. That's a great story.
Yeah, I agree.
Or Carlos or Felipe is 5th generation. Those are all. That's or Guillermo's family with salsa. I mean, those are. I love those little stories back there, and it's I get geeked out about it, but it's. I think it's important.
And just for the promotion, we are about to release the Tapatio brand course, and we already have the G4 one from the producers that you mentioned. So actually, I also believe in these stories. I mean, to be fair with you, and you used to be sommelier yourself, or you still are in a sense, right? And well, not just in a sense, you are. You don't cease being one, right? And I'm just so grateful that we have these stories, because otherwise, exactly as you said, like, okay, it's George Clooney's ex brand. It's kind of like, someone's ex-wife even, right? Like, why is it interesting? Like, what's the story? And like, you go to a restaurant or a bar or any store in the States, probably you can get it off. It's nothing interesting or in particular unique for them to have. And there's nothing much to discover or just to play with, or like, hey, even the taste is nothing wrong with, obviously, because that's why 80% of people just enjoy it. But if you think about like more like the uniqueness, right, or even the story that is behind the taste, as you were saying, like the hidden story that, hey, well, we have some Tahona in there, we have some hard, we have some proper fermentation. It's not like it's taking long enough. It's spontaneous. It's not, they don't add anything except for the great grandfather's yeast from 1937 or something, right? So So these are just unique things. And the thing is, you taste this tequila, and then you can actually taste those things. And I don't know, it's hard to taste money, right? In fact,
I agree.
in fact,
But
I
I tell
think.
you, I took your G4 class. I thought that was
Ah,
interesting and informative, and I've been to El Pandillo a number of times, and you still learn something new. And I can't wait to take the Tapatio class, see what that's all about. I'd love to hear it. But Carla, well, I hope I was informative, and I hope I helped you out a little bit, or was not too dominant in the conversation. But
no, no, not at all. No, it was
I
all
appreciate the
great.
opportunity. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I
Thanks
look
to you,
forward to meeting
Greg.
you. I'm learning sitting here talking to you, so thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much.
I hope we meet soon. All right.
Thanks a lot for joining me and Greg on this journey to discover many interesting things about single barrel tequila. What's it like to owning a restaurant? If you like this sort of type of content, feel free to like and subscribe this video. And of course, check out Greg's social media channels. I believe it's Aged Agave. And remember, if the age is more like the maturity, the wisdom, right? That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So
Thank
thanks
you,
a lot
Adam.
for watching. Thank you, Greg, for being here, and talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, brother.